So in this video, I'm going to share what I like and dislike about this keyboard after using it for about a month, so that you can decide for yourself whether it is worth the $79 that Logitech is asking for. I paid for this with my own money, so none of my opinions are influenced by anybody. Without any further delay, let's get into the review. In terms of portability, this keyboard weighs 222 grams and measures 25 cm by 10.5 cm. It is 32.5% smaller in surface area compared to the MX Keys Mini and 18.5% smaller than the Apple Magic Keyboard. It is also pretty thin, measuring at just 0.9 cm at its thickest point and 0.4 cm at its thinnest. If you were to include the thickness of the flip cover when it is unfolded, it becomes 1.2 cm at its thickest and 0.8 cm at its thinnest. I was pleasantly surprised that this keyboard managed to fit into my 4-litre Bellroy Venture sling bag, which is a very small sling bag to begin with. It feels like it weighs next to nothing when I carry it, and I kind of just forget that it's even there. Although this was advertised as a tablet keyboard, I mostly use it with my iPhone 13 Pro Max because I don't really find it portable enough if I still have to bring an additional tablet along. My iPhone 13 Pro Max has a screen that is large enough for basic typewriting, so I don't find the need to bring my iPad along since that would add extra weight, and I will have to bring a bigger bag as well. The total weight of my iPhone 13 Pro Max and this keyboard weighs just 460 grams, which makes it 3 times lighter compared to bringing my M1 MacBook Air. As for typing experience, my first impression is that the buttons are quite mushy, in the sense that there isn't a lot of tactile and auditory feedback. This was somewhat surprising since this keyboard and the Magic Keyboard both have the same 1mm of key travel, and they both use the scissors switch mechanism as well. Here's a typing test for you to listen to it for yourself, and I've also included a comparison with the MX Keys Mini as well. So as you can hear, the typing sound is pretty quiet, so it is unlikely to disturb anyone around you in a co-working space, and it is definitely quiet enough to type in the library. It does feel pretty cramped when I was first typing on it, and for some of the keys especially, Logitech seemed to have squished them into oblivion because they are just so tiny. Until today, I still make mistakes when trying to access these very slim keys, and I can foresee it being an issue if you are using these to write code, since some of these super slim keys are used rather frequently depending on the language you're coding in. But if you're doing basic script writing and typing, which is my primary use case for this keyboard, that was rarely an issue. Even though the keyboard is made of recycled plastic, I didn't really feel any noticeable flex no matter how hard I was typing on this. You can only tell when you are deliberately pressing very hard into it. As an Apple user, I do appreciate that Logitech still made an effort to include the control function, option and command keys on the bottom left side of this keyboard, despite it having a very small form factor. I think they did this because they are advertising this as a tablet keyboard, and iPads occupy the biggest market share in the tablet market. So it kind of makes sense for them to include the Mac shortcut keys as well. However, I did have some difficulties getting used to the shortcut keys because they are narrower than those on the MX Keys Mini and the Magic Keyboard. My thumb would frequently overreach and hit the option key instead of the command key, but thankfully I was able to adjust fairly quickly to these differences by the second or third day of using it, so that wasn't too big of an issue. Overall, I think that the typing experience is still acceptable if you're coming from the MX Keys Mini or the Apple Magic Keyboard. But you will have to give yourself 2 to 3 days of adjustment period for your brain to adapt to the more cramped layout. Just be sure to manage your expectations because you're going to have to give up some of the typing comfort that you get on the Magic Keyboard and the MX Keys Mini for the sake of greater portability that this keyboard offers. As for batteries, this keyboard uses 2 CR2032 coin cell batteries, and Logitech claimed that this keyboard can last 3 years with it. Upon inspection of its fine print, This 3-year claim is actually based on the assumption that you only type on it for 2 hours each day. But I think 2 hours is pretty fair for this particular keyboard, since I personally won't be using it as a daily workhorse and will probably only use it when I'm outdoors. However, one hassle is the fact that you will require a T5 Torx screwdriver to remove the Torx head screws that hold the battery cover in place. Although I do have the T5 Torx screwdriver with me, I suspect most people will not have one lying around the house. Not to mention, coin cell batteries may not be as common as well, since many modern devices use rechargeable batteries these days. I was kinda disappointed that Logitech wasn't kind enough to also include a small Torx screwdriver in the box, despite charging a slightly more premium price for this keyboard. I would very much prefer a cover with a clip mechanism that I can easily remove with my nails, similar to the one on the Pebble K380 keyboard. Now let's talk about the flip cover. The flip cover on this keyboard is built in and it is not removable. It is somewhat hardened and somewhat flexible, like it is hard enough to act as a barrier against accidental scratches or impact, but it is not hard enough to prevent things from pressing on it and activating the keys. The cover is pretty water resistant in my testing, so this cover should also help protect the keyboard against accidental spills. The flexible hinge does feel pretty thin though, so I'm not sure how well it will hold up against the constant flipping of the cover during use. There are magnets that keep the cover in place at the front, but I do find it slightly challenging to flip it open with one hand, and I would have to dig my fingernails between the keyboard and the cover to separate them. It is also somewhat finicky to open with two hands, since the keyboard and the flip cover are both pretty thin. By flipping the cover backwards, the height of the keyboard gets elevated and it helps make the typing experience a little bit more comfortable. Again, there are magnets that hold the cover in place when it is flipped backwards. It would be pretty nice if Logitech could make the flip cover foldable, much like how Newfie offers a flip cover that can be folded so that you can rest your device at an angle for a better viewing experience. Otherwise, I would have to bring a separate phone stand or look for something in my surrounding to rest my phone against. But that's just a small feature request that I have, not something that is a deal breaker. Let's now talk about the function row keys. Just like many of the other Logitech keyboards, the first 3 keys are connectivity keys that lets you connect up to 3 devices. The switching is really quick and reliable. I only have to wait about 2 seconds and it will connect very quickly. The other function row keys are basically for utility functions, such as adjusting the screen brightness, the volume, media controls, taking screenshots, and maybe also like adding emoji. I have tested these with Android tablets and Android phones as well, and the function row keys also work seamlessly. This keyboard is also supported by the Logi Options app, which gives you the freedom to customize the utility function keys to the ones that you are used to. I think Logitech has done a fairly good job with balancing portability with usability, because it's easy to accidentally go too far with portability to the point where the product becomes barely usable. I think that the form factor for this keyboard is just right to fit into my smaller bags, yet allows me to type on it relatively comfortably for more than an hour. You will not get the same level of comfort as the Magic Keyboard and the MX Keys Mini, because that is the price you will have to pay for better portability. If you're not too bothered by the subpar typing experience and the inconvenient battery replacement process, then I think that this keyboard might be a decent contender for the best portable keyboard title. Alright folks, that's all I have to say about this keyboard. I hope what I said was helpful and thank you for watching. I'll see you again in the next video. Bye bye.